Welcome back to the Gotham Beyond podcast. I am your host, the Evil DM, Vince. Episode 7. Today, we're digging into a power that doesn't flash, doesn't explode, and doesn't rip all the walls right open or light up the skyline. In fact, most people probably just pass it over because it's quiet, it's subtle, and it's actually invasive. And in the right hands, it's probably pretty terrifying if you think about it. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the power of telepathy. This will tie into some of the other things that we did in the past. So, flipping to page 64 in the DC Heroes 3rd Edition core book, telepathy allows a character to establish mental contact with another sentient being. Pure communication, a private channel into the mind. Not thought reading, that's mind probe. Not illusion, that's its own separate real trick. Telepathy is just contact, but it doesn't, but don't let this just fool you, pretty much. Because a well placed telepath can control the entire feel of the session if you think about it. Here's how it works, and we'll go over that right now. So, when you create a link, you can add more than one person, a whole group if you want, but there's a cost to it, obviously. Every extra mind link reduces your telepathy range by 1 AP. So if you've got a telepathy of 8 APs and you're connecting 3 of your allies, you're suddenly down to a range of 5 APs. Not so bad because 5 APs is pretty good. You can carry the team with you, but your reach really starts to shrink down. It becomes more of a balancing act, coordination versus coverage. I had a player once who built a character inspired by Saturn Girl from the Legion. Nothing but mental powers. Before every mission, she'd set up the team link. 4 players, sometimes 5. Everyone could talk silently across the board. They've done this multiple times in Justice League and the cartoons and everything. And you always see when a Martian Manhunter does this all the time. We had scenes where a whole team infiltration ran without a single word spoken. All decisions, all panic and plans, all silent in everybody's head. Not one person outside of the group heard the conversation. It felt weird, and it's tense, like the group was operating on a higher level than the world around them, and that's because the range would drop just slightly with every little link that they added. But they had to as they moved the unit. They couldn't scatter across the map. They had to stay kind of close due to the range. That detail alone, one rule, made the group play tighter and watch each other's backs. That's what I mean when I say this power changes the tone of how the group works. But telepathy isn't about secret chatter. The rulebook gives you a darker option, mind to mind combat, if you look at it. If 2 characters are linked, the channel can become a battlefield. Attacks made this way use your mental stats or powers as AV/EV against the target's mental stats or powers as OV/RV. It's invisible, it's silent, and when you hit, you inflict mental damage straight to the mind condition. That's actually really dangerous because a lot of people don't pump their mental defenses at all. They're built on tank hits and body hits on the body track. Not here. And a glass-jawed titan can fall in one real mental strike because they're not going to put their points into that. I once ran a fight between a player's telepath and a mob boss. On the surface, the boss was untouchable, armored cars, guards everywhere, thick walls. But the telepath, he didn't just kick down the door. He didn't need to. He reached in, made the connection, and whispered, "I know what you did. I know the accounts. I know where the bodies are." The boss failed his resistance roll, failed hard, and took enough raps of mental damage that he collapsed in front of his own men. No bullets were fired, no chase, no thoughts weaponized. No chase, just thoughts weaponized. The table went dead quiet after that. That's the effect of telepathy in play. You never know what's going to really happen when you use it. So, now here's a balancing factor. If you're linked, the target can try to break free. Any linked character can attempt to sever the connection by making a check with their intelligence or wisdom as the AVEV against the telepaths APs for the OVRV. If they succeed, they cut you off. But it doesn't stop there. They also deal raps as damage to your telepath's APs. That's right, the power itself takes damage. Those APs are reduced and have to be recovered later. So you're actually attacking the power when it comes to this point. So if you overreach, if you hold too many minds, if you link to the wrong person, you could burn out your own ability. I kind of like that. I like the risk baked into the mechanic like that. Because it means telepathy isn't just a free ride, it's not endless coordination. It's a tool with some teeth behind it. And if your target fights back, the link can snap hard enough to shut you down. Players learn that real quick, and this kind of keeps them in check and honest when it comes to this power. So let's talk a little bit of GM advice. First, keep the distinction sharp. Telepathy is not mind probe. Players will try to blur the line and they'll say, oh, since I'm linked, I could skim his thoughts, right? Or I could read his mind, right? No. The book is quite clear. This is contact, not theft. So, second, make the channel feel real. Give it texture, make voices echo faintly. Maybe thoughts come with an emotional flavor. Maybe it's cold and cynical like a static radio or something from the past. When you describe it, the players treat it seriously. So the more you focus on the background and how it works, the players will take it a little more seriously for you. And third, don't be afraid to weaponize it. Villains can use this power too. Nothing rattles players faster than hearing a voice in their head mid session, especially if it's a voice they don't recognize. The paranoia is worth every point of gold. It is probably the best thing you can do as a GM is when you have a player who's alone somewhere or you focus on them and they hear the voice in their head. I know who you are. I know where you are. I'm going to get you. And they have no idea who that person even is. And they start getting scared, looking around, checking around. But you tell them you hear the voice in your head. You don't know who this is. You don't recognize the voice, but there it is. And you can watch the player. And most players appreciate that and they like that. So it's a mystery. It's focusing on them. It's giving them a spotlight. So, So I remember one time I ran a telepathic villain named Apex once, kind of a subtle operator, never showed his face. Instead, he piggybacked into the team's link, started feeding false orders, retreat east, target has moved, doors secure. The team split up, lost cohesion, and by the time they realized, Apex was already 3 steps ahead of them. And that whole session played out without him even firing a single shot. That's kind of the control a villain with telepathy can bring. They didn't know. He mimicked what was going on and it confused them. So why not? Try it one time in your campaign, see how it works. But you probably have to throw an NPC in there so you can throw them off just a slight bit. So the beauty of it, telepathy doesn't need to dominate every encounter, it just needs to insert doubt. And am I really hearing my teammate? Am I alone in this link? Am I safe in my own head? Those questions reshape the entire mood of the table when it comes to this power. So, if you're building a hero or if you're a GM building a villain and you want subtle control, tension, drama that outlasts the fight, look at telepathy again. It may be the loudest voice in your head, but it's going to be the quietest one in the room because it's going to be the one that's going to actually change the mood of the game. So, next time on the Gotham Beyond podcast, we'll probably talk about another power, or I'm not sure. I'm still trying to figure out what it's all about. Again, you can go to the podcast in Spotify or an Apple Podcast, and you can find it there, or you can head on over to YouTube.com, and I think it's Gotham Podcast. Let me just double check on that for you because I always get that confused. Nope, Gotham Beyond. So head over to youtube.com @Gotham Beyond, and you can Subscribe there if you like listening to podcasts on YouTube, or you can just find it on Spotify, Apple, whatever. If you'd like to send us an email, we do have an email address. That was Gotham Podcast or Gotham Database. I just got to find it again. I'm unprepared. Sorry. Gotham Database at gmail.com. You can also head to Gotham-database.com for our website for all the official write ups and yada yadas that we do. If you want to follow that, I appreciate it. All you need is a Google account and you can hit follow because I'm Blogger or whatever those things are called. So, with that said, I'm going to head out. Hopefully, you have a great evening and we'll talk to you later. Goodbye, folks.